Yeah, and that's what Dr. Fauci indicated to us just a few minutes ago on this show. I think that was a preview of the story that dropped in the Washington Post, that at long last there's an understanding in the upper reaches of the White House and the Oval Office about how serious this is and how testing is the key to finally getting a handle on not fixing this, but to getting a handle on how big the problem is. Let's turn now to a member of the House Committee on Science, Space, and Technology, Democratic Congressman Charlie Crist of Florida. Congressman, good morning. Good to see you. Appreciate you spending some time with us. How big a problem is coronavirus in the state of Florida right now, and what measures are you taking on a state level to attack it?
It's a huge problem. I mean, we're the third largest state in the country. We have 22 million people. In my district, there are already 2 cases that are identified. We have 2 deaths in the Sunshine State, and that saddens my heart. We have to do everything we can. And this announcement about, finally getting to testing, where have they been? Yeah. I mean, who doesn't realize how important that is? Everybody ought to have the ability to get a test if they're having some symptoms that indicate that they may have contracted this disease. So, I'm glad they're stepping up, but, maybe a little too late. I hope that they get their act together and start working harder and doing more, because the American people deserve it. We're in a crisis. And so you have to rally the troops and make sure that all hands are on deck. You're doing everything humanly possible to help the American people and, frankly, the people of the world stem the tide of this problem that we're dealing with.
Hey, Congressman, it's John Heilemann here. I'm curious about so many things, but one of the things we've been discussing this morning is the role the president has played in this, and I'm really focused, for the moment at least, on the future. There's a story in the New York Times this morning that says, the president's basically become a bystander in the administration. And I think in any normal crisis, certainly one of this scale, we would be concerned if the president of the United States was a bystander in his administration's reaction to that crisis. I wonder, though, in this circumstance, given the kind of behavior that he's exhibited leading up to this moment, and then the speech that he gave the other night and the kind of ramifications that we've seen in the markets and elsewhere, whether it might actually be better if the president were a bystander and one who was, in fact, out of the public spotlight, allowing others, whether that's Mike Pence, Anthony Fauci, others, to be the public face of the response to this crisis. Which do you feel more comfortable with, an assertive Donald Trump or a Donald Trump who's more or less out of the picture?
I prefer an assertive president that is competent, intelligent, sober-minded, clear-eyed, and steady.
Yeah.
And that's why I support Joe Biden. That's why, I think we need a new president. That is crystal clear to me.
Yeah.
And, to have a guy, frankly, it's better that he's in the background a little bit, in my humble opinion, because of what we've seen and what we've heard and the misstatements that he makes, even when he's giving a scripted speech. It's embarrassing. And so we need a change. And Florida's looking forward to a change. Our primary is next Tuesday, St. Patrick's Day. I think the Vice President Biden, is going to do very well. I pray for that. I'll tell you that. But it's really eye on the ball. November the 3rd is coming. That's when we get the chance to make a change and have real leadership that understands what's important, what the people care about, that cares about them with true empathy, understands people are more important than money. I mean, he's been talking about things to try to make sure the market does well, and it's collapsed. So, we need real leadership. We're starving for it as a nation. The people of America deserve it. And I know they're thirsting for it. So I'm looking forward to a change, and Vice President Biden will make a great United States president.
Congressman, you're on the House Committee for Science, Space, and Technology. What kind of answers have you gotten from the administration about the delay in testing?
Bad ones, that they're not doing enough. I mean, I'm getting calls in my district in Tampa Bay, the anchor of the I-4 corridor in Florida. The problem is people can't get tests done. And if you can't get tests done, you don't know if you have it or you don't have it. I mean, my goodness, this is so basic. This is not really complicated how to deal with this. You've got to get up to speed. You've got to be ahead of a problem. You can't try to dismiss it at the very get-go and act like it's not a problem and everything's going smoothly. I mean, those kind of statements are in the president's own self-interest, in his view, I think. And I just think he's missing it and not appreciating. He works for the people of America. They're the boss. He needs to understand, who he answers to.
Congressman Charlie Crist, we will leave it right there. Thank you very much for being on. And that does it for us this morning. Stephanie Ruhle picks up the coverage after a short break.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.